And breaking in just the past few hours, the son of NBA superstar LeBron James, Bronny James, is out of the ICU after suffering a cardiac arrest during a basketball workout. According to his family's statement, the highly touted USC freshman is in stable condition. So joining me now is Dr. Jayne Morgan, a cardiologist, as well as Executive Director of Health and Communication Education and Community Education at Piedmont Healthcare. Dr. Morgan, thank you so much for your time. So we're talking about Bronny James here. He's young, I believe 18 years old. He's certainly a top athlete. We know he's pushing his body to the extreme. Is there something to be said about the need for moderation here?
Well, I think what we are seeing here is about 2,000 athletes have cardiac arrests each year. And we need to begin to understand how we move forward with training teams with CPR. I think this is another great example of not just the trained staff for CPR, but the people who are closest to the player when this occurs, and those would be their teammates, need to be able to at least begin CPR, need to be able to utilize the defibrillator and actually know where it is. They are the ones who are the closest to the player where these incidences occur. Again, he was very fortunate that he was in a facility with trained medical personnel who could tend to him immediately. Many people who are out in public do not have that access, and people around them are also not trained.
All right, so Dr. Morgan, I mean, I think when most of us hear cardiac arrest, we think older, we think middle-aged, we think, potentially or not out of shape. Here we are talking about a teenager who is in tip-top shape, but we know that this stuff does happen. Are we seeing more of these events, or is it just that we're hearing more about them because there's so much media coverage?
And so we see about the same number of these cases. And in younger athletes, it's less likely to be due to coronary artery disease or this hardening of the arteries that we see in people 35 years of age or older. And so in this case, it's more likely to be due to something that's either congenital, something he was born with and that has been undiscovered or undisclosed, or something that has developed like hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, an enlargement of the heart that can also give this sudden cardiac arrest. And so without having any information regarding him, and certainly drawing the distinction between Bronny and Damar Hamlin, who had a very specific incident that occurred with that blow to the chest. As far as I know, I don't hear of any specific incident that may have caused this cardiac arrest, this arrhythmia, malignant arrhythmia of the heart. Then we have to wait to see what the workup is going to show us.
So I was talking to a coworker. She played college softball. She had a teammate that experienced this. Just they were doing a conditioning, and all of a sudden her teammate dropped. Thankfully, she was okay. But later, her entire family had EKGs, found out that a few of them have a condition. And many doctors are arguing that some of these, undiagnosed heart conditions could be found if EKGs were a part of basic physicals. Do you agree with that?
And I think ECGs, these EKGs, can pick up on some of these, certainly when we're talking about an enlarged heart, as well as more advanced cardiac studies like an echocardiogram. Again, we do not know if this is what Bronny James has, but some of the symptoms, and we don't know if he was having symptoms or not, but he may have had symptoms that he was minimizing. You can have some chest pain, some shortness of breath with exertion, some palpitations, these types of things that may be nagging and come and go that could be worse with exertion. So we have no idea as well if he was having any type of symptoms that may have seemed very minimal to him, but actually could have been warning signs.
Well, again, he is currently in stable condition. We wish Bronny James, the entire family there, hopefully Bronny will have a speedy recovery. Dr. Morgan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.